Hello everyone and welcome back to another OPTC video. We're back for treasure map versus Bonney. So this treasure map I think isn't really that hard if you do have the part 2 batch and maybe Luffy from part 1. The Bonney and the Kuma from part 1 aren't really that great for this treasure map, but the Luffy is fairly decent, mainly for damage purposes. But you'll see how that goes, mainly on the Intrusion. But having Jupiter and I don't have Nydato myself, but I don't think he's very helpful. There's defense up on the Intrusion, so maybe he's decent there. I don't know why I didn't just take the bird there. I'm not locked in. But either way, the mini-boss teams, to an extent, aren't very accessible because for one of them, we are using the treasure map Sabo from about 2 treasure maps ago, I think. So, also, I could have just used my card to get that. Oh, there we go, got the bird. For the Intrusion, we are using a very inaccessible ship. We are using the coated Sunny with mod 2, which will be required. There is a lot of bind on the Intrusion, and they're trying to screw you over if you're just trying to use Walkyrie as a friend captain, because we do get a bind to our right column on stage 2, which is all fine because you can use Walkyrie to remove that as a friend captain. But when it comes to the final stage, you get another 11 turns of bind to your left column, so you can't use Walkyrie as a friend captain to remove that. You have to use other units on your team. So that 11 turns goes down to 8 with sockets, goes down to 6 with the ship, and then goes down to 0 with the Pomsky rare recruit, who is from the previous part 2. He's a very helpful character. Make sure he is on the right column. If he's not on the right column, the team will not work because he himself will get binded on the final stage. We are using the supports of Halloween Ace as well as the Tesoro and Baccarat from the... He's a treasure map character. Using him is very great for removing the bind on stage 2 alongside the ship, because it means that we can use Walkyrie on the final stage straight up for just damage. He does give us a lot of damage on the final stage, so having that for the final stage and not using him here is very helpful for damage. So here we will be using, of course, this guy, Tosa, to give us the cooldown. We can then use the Nami Karina swap effect to give us G-orbs for a lot of our units. Use the special for an attack boost. Luckily, our base attack boost will carry over until the final stage. And then at this point, you can just kill. We don't have any chain boost or anything like that, so you might want to add someone for that. You could also use Luffy on stage 2. Actually, yes, use Luffy on stage 2. It's very smart to do that. We don't have to worry about damage on the final stage since we do have the massive orb boost and color affinity from the elders. So you can just use Luffy on stage 2. It will be much better for your damage. You don't need the chain boundary here. Use Pomsky for the remaining turns of bind. Jupiter will not only give us the overall effect, proccing the X super, which is very important for surviving the death hit, but he also removes the 10 turns of threshold and also gives us a massive orb boost. Then Walkyrie will remove the burn and give us a massive color affinity. And as you can see, the damage is very safe there. We have 60k HP remaining, and then the damage reduction from Walkyrie's X Super will allow us to survive the death hit. So very, very efficient team there. As I said, you can decide whether you want to use Luffy on stage 2 or not. You really don't need the extra damage on the final stage. You could also add like a support to Jupiter, like Raid Shiki, to give you a 1.3x attack boost, which you don't have an attack boost on the final stage, so Shiki will give you an extra 1.3x damage. And then you can use Luffy on stage 2, of course. But yeah, the mini bosses, I think this time around, I really am happy with how they turned out. Mainly because we are using some very interesting characters, like the Sabo from 2 treasure maps ago. He's a very good character for treasure map as a captain, just a really solid unit, because he gives 2 turns of cooldown as a captain. He also gives you two charges for your versus effects, super swaps as well. And then as a captain, his super type is very fast to activate and will wave clear the enemies. But even on top of that, he will provide you a chain boundary effect at the start of the quest as a captain, as long as you meet the tag requirement, which is very hard to meet sometimes. But if you do, it's very rewarding, and Sabo is just perfect for speed farming. Allows you to get so much damage on the final stage with that chain boundary effect. But the first team here is fairly simple. The only character that you don't see often here is going to be Hody Jones. So of course, as we know, he already provides us a full board of Wonder Orbs at the start of the quest with her Sailor ability. So make sure she's max limit broken. No expansion required. Mihawk and Perona is there for... Not Mihawk and Perona. Moria and Perona is there for a conditional attack boost, so not required. We are using the German ship, but it's not necessary. Any ship that gives you cooldown will work. But of course, if you are using Germa, use one of every type. So Hody Jones is the main character here that you're going to be seeing. Very helpful unit. And as you saw there, his wave clear is ridiculously fast. We also have the Akainu support. The reason that we aren't using Akainu and using Hody Jones for wave clear instead is because we are using that Akainu as a support instead. Well, it's actually a different Akainu, but you obviously can't use Akainu as a support and then also have him on the crew. Hody Jones is also just really fast wave clearer with double special activation. I would say he's better than Akainu. The only problem is that he has 12 turns of cooldown, whereas Akainu has only 10 turns, so of course he's a bit harder to use. But he does have access to the Int free-to-play Evander Decken support for 2 turns of bind and special bind reduction for the entire crew, which is ridiculously helpful. In that team there, I didn't really need to use it, but in future, that Hody Jones is going to be so good on mini-boss teams. In any mini-boss where there's going to be bind and special bind. He also shifts our orbs, so he can also provide us matching orbs. That Hody Jones is just excellent, man, and just very fast to activate. I definitely recommend maxing him out if you do have him. And of course, you do need to expand him to have that access to double special activation. Now, this team's very interesting. Brook is our MVP here. Now, Mihawk is a very inaccessible captain, but what can I say? We need a Side Slasher captain who is going to give us 2 turns of cooldown from his captain ability, so that Toki will be ready. Very specific. I don't think anyone else fulfills that requirement. Actually, you could use Luffy, Zoro, Sanji from the 10th anniversary. I mean, 11th anniversary. They really could work. I forgot that they are a slasher type unit, and I'm pretty sure they give cooldown. Of course, that means that you'll have to replace that Zoro with someone else who facilitates the support of Sanji. Actually, no, wait, we need that Sanji support though, so I'm actually not sure about that. But as you can see there, each of our Mihawks does about 350 mil, so about a 700 million damage team. Of course, since we have 5 slashers, Toki gives us the top row Wonder Orbs, so we want our top row to be our main damage dealers. The enemy is weak to slasher class, so we are running a size slasher unit to deal the most damage. And Toki, we are using the evolved state in one of the other mini boss teams, so I think it's the next one. So that's why we are using the unevolved version there. I'm actually not using Nami and Karina teams this time around. Usually I do, but it kind of sucks the fun out of team building, if I'm being honest, because you have to there's a very specific way that you have to team build, just because both Buggy and Nami and Karina give 0 cooldown in their captain abilities, so it's very difficult. You have to focus on damage because Buggy is horrible damage captain. There's just a lot of restraints that make there absolutely no freedom in team building. So I prefer using these teams which are much more creative or interesting. They have a lot of damage, so you don't have to worry about building in such a restrictive way. But either way, Sabo super types on stage 1 and 2, make sure you start off in the Koala form of Robin and Koala. If you start off in the Int form, it will count as not having a Revolutionary Army tag unit, since it'll be Robin, in which case it's very stupid, but you will not activate the chain boundary effect. So on the final stage, super swap to get the 2.25x color affinity. Then we're using Goku on Bonney, since we have one of every type. And then the Kuma support to remove the remaining turns of despair and buff Bonney's chain boost that she provided. And that will coexist with the chain boundary from Sabo's captain effect, giving you a 600 million damage on Bonney, which is really good. I don't know if I have my Bonney maxed, but either way, she is a boosted unit, so her stats are even better than usual. The final mini boss, this one's very unique in the fact that we are using Whitebeard for his Sailor ability. So make sure wherever you are using in place of Whitebeard, they need to be a character that has a crewmate ability to resist stun. There are many characters that exist like that, but if you are using this Whitebeard, you have to use his Limit Break expansion to provide that crewmate ability. The reason we are doing that is because our captains get paralysis and our middle row gets stun. Our bottom row are our main damage dealers, but of course we want to start off our chain with one of the weaker characters so that our main damage dealers do the most damage possible, if you get what I mean. So Zoro and Kizaru are of course our main damage dealers. And it's very important that you have Kizaru there. He gives a turn of cooldown, which allows our Toki to be ready on stage 2. Toki does not get cooldown from this quest, so we have to rely on -2 cooldown captains, a -2 cooldown ship, the Zoro special, and also Kizaru Sailor to make sure she is ready. You also need expansion on her. Very, very heavy on the requirements. But as you can see, we can use Kizaru for chain boundary and a chain growth rate, and then start off the chain with Whitebeard and then kill off with Zoro 420 mil. Kizaru also does about 220 mil. He doesn't have advantageous class, which is why he does a lot less damage. But regardless, the team is about 600 mil once again, so the damage is very reliable. K-Dad, of course, super type allows us to wave clear and give us 1 orbs to the bottom row. As for the final boss, we are using Machina support. You could also use Kizuna Recruit Brook for the defense up removal. And if you can find any other support to remove defense up, it could also work. You could also use the special support rare recruit Dex Carrot, which allows you to remove defense up when you hit a perfect on Nami and Karina. That of course is a bit less reliable because you have to hit a perfect, otherwise the team is cooked. Although if I'm being honest, the damage is enough to the point where you can just hit straight through the defense up. But of course, later on, you need a lot of damage, so you really can't rely on that being the case. So we are using Saint Mars as our friend captain. He's great for removing the weak chain lock on stage 2. Unfortunately, some team builders may suggest using a chain locking special on stage 1 to prevent the weak chain lock. But since there is the chance of the secret map, in which case you can't use any effects on stage 1, then the team will be unreliable. And no one wants her unreliable team, right? So we will be super swapping into Karina's form, removing 6 turns of defense up, giving us an orb boost, and then Machina removes the remaining turns. We can use Borsalino for a chain boost. You don't need the Doflamingo support anymore. I wasn't using Kizaru before, but now we have him for a chain boost, so you really don't need the Dofi support. You can then use Mars and then Tosa. Tosa will extend the chain boundary to 3 turns, allowing it to last until the final stage. But beyond that, just break through the barrier. I know it's annoying, but it is what it is. And then our Kizaru and Hound will be our main damage dealers on stage 2. Luckily, our Tosa also locks our G-Orbs, so that will also last until the final stage. We get all of our beneficial effects cleared, but luckily a chain boundary effect is counted as a debuff, so it is not removed. So, actually, yeah, you will be needing that Dofi support because our chain boost got removed. We can then use Hound to give our Mars a beneficial orb. We can use Peter for a orb boost. And that'll also proc the X super of Mars because we got the overheal buff. And this will remove the enemy's annoying barrier, allowing you to kill off and get past the chain minimum attack down. Very easy kill. So that's about it for the teams. Thank you guys for watching. The run was a bit longer, mainly because I was explaining, not tapping efficiently. But it is what it is. I was also very slow moving on the map there, as you could see, with all those cards at the start. If you have good ping and you play optimally, this will be about a 12-minute run, which, including the intrusion, is not bad at all. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Tell me your thoughts down below. Ask me for replacements if you need any. Sorry these teams are late, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, and I'm out.